I think we're ready. All right, let's do it. I've always had a profound fascination with American pop culture. Well, that's all right, Mama. And if you want to explore America in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Elvis is your guy. Because he happens to be at the crossroads of pop culture, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in all those periods. I'm leaving town. But what I realized was I didn't really want to do a biopic. It was a gateway into understanding America and popular culture.
Now we're starting the show. What fascinated me from the outset was stripping away the icon of Elvis, finding who he is when nobody's around. Well, I found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of the lonely street, that heartbreak. Putting his life into context, he's embodying the American dream, coming from nothing and then being able to have your dreams come true.
That's not just lightning in a bottle. That's a comet smashing into the planet Earth. That's what the movie is about. The shift in climate after the comet landed in Memphis in 1955.
I think I always admired the way that he brought meaning to songs, the way he phrased lyrics. My initial thoughts when I first read the script was how poignant Elvis's story really was. His rise to great fame, like flying towards the sun, and eventual destruction by that fame.
I remember looking at Jeremy Donner's first draft and Baz talking to me about his underlying dramatic conceit to look at the relationship between Elvis and the Colonel. I was very intrigued by that as a premise and a way in.
They'll be so lonely they could die. To get to explore all these periods in his life and feel him in the 50s as this vibrant 19-year-old kid.
Just gotta be making the most of this thing while I can. It's like Daddy says, it's gonna all be over in a flash.
And then just a few years later, being in the whirlwind of the 60s and all the films that he made during that time. It's just really remarkable how this one man could make such a mark on the world.
What we learn in this film is that Elvis was a very spiritual man. Music affected his early upbringing, and certainly gospel music. He attended Club Handy, and Sister Rosetta Tharpe was a great influence on him.
She's one of the principal creators of rock and roll music. And everything that came after, we see her and BB and Elvis and all of the things that rock and roll evolved into and affected. You know, it feels right.
Music is so much about authenticity in our souls, and you can't deny that. But there's something really special and really unique about what Elvis was doing. I think his charm and his energy and his youthfulness and his naivete in a lot of ways all fused towards this persona that he's kind of created for himself.
When you come to an iconic character like Elvis, everyone's got their opinion. And there are a lot of great, what they call tribute artists out there. Now, these are people who do brilliant things. They impersonate Elvis so well that you go, gee, that could be Elvis. But you see, we're not in the impersonation business. That's an art form. We're in the interpretation business.
About a month before I heard that Baz was making film, I was with a friend of mine driving to go look at Christmas lights. I was just singing along to these Christmas carols, and I think it was Blue Christmas, and my friend reached over and said, you gotta play Elvis. Obviously, that'd be amazing, but I just kind of brushed it off. And then a couple weeks later, I was playing the piano, and I kind of was singing along, and again, she said, I'm serious, you need to play Elvis. Then a couple days later, I got a call from my agent that said, Baz Luhrmann's making an Elvis film. Just all the hairs on my arm stood up, I got chills, and I don't know, it just feels like the stars are aligning. I knew that they weren't even auditioning anything at this point. Something came out of a very personal experience, and I ended up filming myself singing Unchained Melody. Here I was just in my bathrobe and filmed it in my living room, and I sent that off, and then I got a call that Baz wanted to meet me.
Now, that is the biggest thing. I mean, it's up there. And the last time Elvis sings it, maybe it's one of the greatest things he's ever done, and then he dies not very long afterwards. And this young man is there with the bathrobe playing the piano, and he's singing it, and he's crying. And he's so emotional, and then he goes like that, he looks up to the heavens, and then he walks off.
The close to the vest dedication that he gave to it was, I thought, impressive right off the bat. That's all you could say. Well, that's it. That's the guy. That's Elvis.
When I first started approaching this, I felt such a weight. This deep need to do him justice and to honor his family, portraying somebody who is so iconic and everybody knows and paid tribute to or impersonated. In the beginning, it's really hard not to feel like a little kid in your dad's suit.
They threw me in the deep end. We went right into it, and it's been really interesting to learn about what Elvis would have had to experience. Baz is so great with that.
Love his pictures so much.
And feel a massive amount of gratitude for the process itself, different eras, different costumes, and I've been working on it for so many months, and this is just so extraordinary, figuring it out and truly exploring.
This is the main drag. We're in the main street of Tupelo. This here is a hardware store, quite intact, and it's where Gladys comes in to buy a bicycle, and they can't really afford it. But in the end, she buys him a guitar. That's a replica. There's a humility to Elvis that you can't avoid when you start to study him and know people who knew him. There's an incredible shyness and a kind of insecurity too. This paradox of this incredibly handsome man with this amazing musical gift, at the same time so insecure and so vulnerable, which I think makes him a great artist. I want you to put your hands together for a young man called Mr. Elvis Presley. So our mission, and Austin went on an extraordinary 3-year journey to do this, was to discover the human being.
Elvis talks so much about his own fear and his own stage fright. That was one of the main reasons why he started moving in the first place, was just all this energy inside. It's not that I need to not feel the fear, it's where do you channel that fear? I'll drop everything and I'm just gonna obsess. I'm gonna allow myself to obsess. I just started reading and watching everything on Elvis's life and on his friends and on his relationships, and thankfully Elvis is one of the most photographed men that has ever lived, so soaking in everything. And then also working with amazing people.
I cannot even stress how important you guys are to this story. This is like the opening of the film, so that's why this is like a treasured thing.
The movement side of things. I had heard about Polly Bennett because she had worked with Rami on Bohemian Rhapsody.
This is a big gig. Austin was under no illusions. He's been quite relentless.
Thankfully, I had so much time, so by the time that I was out there, I wasn't having to think about any of that. It just felt like I was able to look out of his eyes.
We spoke quite a lot about the development of Elvis's confidence as an artist, what we started calling Spider-Man. You know, he had superpowers, but he didn't know how to deal with them, didn't know how to use them.
Her way of working is from the inside out. That was my intention from the very beginning. The feeling of spontaneity as though it's happening right now for the first time, but yet the movements are identical. It's like magic. We did so many things. I mean, we did tap dancing, swing dancing, these things that seemed like they weren't for Elvis, but those movements, they all play into it.
What we see of him when he's 19 versus how his body changes. Gradually through performance and experience, Elvis develops a series of tricks with the audience. That was a really key narrative thing that we had to develop in rehearsal.
She really went above and beyond. She was such an amazing collaborator.
Sit down.
What in God's sweet name am I looking at?
In any job, you know, you got to start layering on the character by way of costume or whatever. Austin, his stuff was much more demanding through subtlety.
We had the most incredible prosthetics and hair team, an absolutely brilliant group of people, and I owe them so much.
With Austin Butler, it was a case of trying to work out what we may or may not do, and also to create the progression through the years.
Elvis Presley had an incredible head of hair, and boy, was he good with hair.
I know.
You can like Elvis or not like Elvis, but you always like his hair.
Most of the film, Elvis is in wigs, except for when he's very young and first starting out. And Baz kind of wanted to push this punk Elvis image, but to make the quiff as high as it needs to be, we had to come up with a way to make it stay there, but still be organic. So when he performs, his hair moves. There is a lot of, after every take, going in and restoring it. like when he's playing guitar or dancing.
Oh, it helps massively when you look in the mirror and you see the transformation, or I have a little bit of weight on me. It makes you walk differently, breathe differently. That in turn then makes you truly feel different emotionally.
It's been a long time, baby. Long time.
Well, it's called Elvis. It's actually Colonel Tom Parker's story, and he's an incredible and fascinating character.
Am I gonna be riding on an elephant too?
A man on an elephant looks important.
And taller.
There was a standard kind of manager, performer kind of thing. Let me tell you what we're gonna do, kid. We're gonna go like this. And the Colonel was not that. He was this other amalgamation of carny, wicked smart businessman, dime-squeezing skinflint, but a pioneer in a big type of show business that did not exist until Elvis Presley came along.
That was always something that really Baz hooked into, that the Colonel came out of this carny background. How the Colonel might draw Elvis into the carnival world as a metaphor for the Colonel kind of drawing Elvis into his hustle and ambition.
I've never worked with anyone like Tom Hanks. I think I just told Tom the story, and I didn't even get my video out to show him what I had in mind. He went like, well, if you want me, I'm your guy.
When he said, look, there would have been no Elvis without Colonel Tom Parker, and there would have been no Colonel Tom Parker without Elvis. And he wasn't a Colonel, and he wasn't a Tom, and he wasn't a Parker. So I said, well, tell me more about that.
Unfit for military duty. Acute psychopathic state.
I was pretending to be crazy. I wanted out. I was just a boy from Huntington, West Virginia.
He's so gifted at playing people that you love and admire, and he's beloved by the world.
I get to ride a ride tonight. Yeah.
But actors want to show you that they can play different notes on their instrument, and he's never really got to play the bad guy note, the gee, I don't really think I want to hang around that guy much note. And so he was rushing towards that. And I think he was really excited to play, bluntly, a not particularly lovable or likable character.
I had just done, believe it or not, Falstaff, Shakespeare's Falstaff, in Henry IV, Part 1 and Part 2. I saw that story-wise. I also saw that influence-wise. Here's a big man with a young kid, and the kid becomes the king.
The roar of the crowd, the life on the road, and then calling home to your loved ones, pretending nothing has changed when everything has.
But as far as the mechanics of playing it, there was a huge physical aspect that, on one hand, you can imagine, but then becomes very, very, very technical. It's like a piece of engineering. There was a moment where it was like, look, are we going to be all in on this, or are we going to try to, like, settle it around? Because if you're all in, that means we're going to have to alter the shape of the, you know, literally the nose, the ear to hair. You can't just put a bald pate on me and a double chin. There's going to be something else that's going to have to be there.
The evolution of the looks for Colonel Tom Parker was a young version, a middle-aged version, and the older version.
Tom Parker's got one piece that goes all the way around the neck, creates this fat chin and neck, and goes up under his eyes for the younger Tom Parker versions. And then the older ones, oh, he's got ear prosthetics as well. Full coverage, because we've got to cover his whole head, get rid of all his hair, and a combination of inserted hair with a needle and a wig around the back. So when he's the really old Colonel Tom Parker, he's wearing about 10 pieces or something.
Baz was specific about having make sure it was going to be organic to me. And there were some things literally we could not do. I have little pipe cleaner arms, the skinny arms. So that right there took out short sleeve shirts.
The whole process about 3.5 hours. The ghostly Tom Parker, which was many more pieces, that started out at 5.5 hours. And then we gradually got that back down to 4 hours.
I mean, these people were the best of the best. Jason, Sean, and Brittany were my crack team.
Tom has incredible instincts, he has a point of view, he does his homework. But if you want to do something, he'll go, and if he goes, yep, he'll go, his favorite phrase, I love this, is, watch this.
Don't you worry.
Right.
Watch.
That's all you'll that's right. He'll do whatever you look for, plus, you know? And you'll just go, well, that's why he's Tom Hanks.
I always knew I was destined for greatness.
I believe I can be great too.
Working with Tom was truly one of the great joys of my life. He's everything that I thought he would be and more. He's just one of the most kind, generous, open-hearted human beings to walk this planet, and he's a brilliant actor, so I learned a lot from him.
I'll go to my grave saying that just about the best time I've ever had in the subtle, quiet demands of making a movie was in the scene on the Ferris wheel. There is bona fide affection, and there's also bona fide awe.
Well, what about you, Mr. Presley? Are you ready to fly?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Ready to fly.
That's That's the high country, man. That's big stuff.
Colonel's promised me that when I get back, he's gonna set me up in Hollywood to be a serious actor.
Olivia, she's just wonderful. She has the ability of being so innocent, but then you look in her eyes and it feels as though she's lived 1,000 lifetimes.
I got to watch Olivia, as Priscilla, realize, I have lost this man. What mortal can compete with all this adulation? I can't say enough about what Olivia did, except I wanted to see more.
She certainly did love him, and she certainly was there for him like no one else. That continued on, obviously, past their divorce and well on past his death.
We don't care about the money or anything else. We just want you to be happy. You're only really happy when you sing the music you love.
For me, it's always exciting working with Baz because he is a true visionary. He has the film in his head, but he's always enhancing those ideas.
I start out with my vision department, bibs and bobs and tear sheets, and a lot of words. I have props and a lot of words.
There was a bigger story to Elvis than what I had ever seen played on screen or television. Because of the music and because of the canvas, who could tell it better than a man who really knows how to blend music and the epic quality? Because the story is a big American story and Baz knows how to do that well.
This was good. See here, that's good. But I think hold it actually also.
Baz works so differently in the best possible way. He has a sort of intense interest in every element, in every department.
And he trusts the artists that he's cast. He trusts the people in the room. His confidence and his just like, just do it, commit, have a good time. You can't do anything wrong.
It's such a conversation, and I haven't acted before. This is my debut, if you will. What a way to debut. It's an utter joy.
Baz is the hardest working man in show business as far as I'm concerned. But I'll tell you right now, it's not just complicated. It's as complicated as Elvis is complicated. So you're throwing awfully deep and awful far in order to try to hit that target. This, I think only Baz can.
Baz had explained to me how he had specific ways of shooting different parts of this movie pertaining to Elvis's life and what was going on in his life at the time.
We shot on 50s lenses for the 50s. And then when we got into the 60s and 70s, we went anamorphics because that was the go-to lensing of the 70s. And
there are times when we shoot what's called train spotting, a reproduction of existing footage that anybody can access right now, which was things such as a 68 special on NBC and his performances in Vegas. I think the most challenging sequence for me, which was also one of the most exciting and one of the first ones we did, was the International Showroom.
So bright, so vivid, and I think we probably had to do it 30 times of everything that was going on. When he came out on stage, it was electrifying. Every single time.
It's a gigantic stage, and I had never shot a concert before.
You feel this energy, and at a certain point you realize that everybody's there supporting this one thing. It felt incredible.
I can't walk out because I love too much, baby.
For me, that was really exciting, and I learnt a lot. And again, I did it with modern technology so that I could change the colour of things. So instead of having parkans up there that we'd have to put gels in, I had modern versions of those with LED lights, but we could change the colour like that, and they could lift up and down, and the intensity could change, and all of a sudden a spot could come on if we wanted it, just on an iPad, which was amazing. We had 5 cameras going, we had 2 Technicranes and remote heads. Baz sits there with all the monitors on, he's talking to everybody. He's like a conductor.
I have absolutely no question in my mind what I want things to look like, what they need to be, and all of that. I see it, but there's a big difference between what I see, how you reveal it and create it and execute it, and that takes an army of artists.
Time goes
outside of the tragedy and outside of the fall from grace, there was a magnificent artist there, a wonderful presence and a mystery to anybody who loved him that only operated on his own instinct. And when he did, Elvis was it.
He was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. He had nothing except extraordinary talent, and he rises to the top to remain an icon in present day.
The arc of that story is truly like a Greek myth. The humanity and humility and the spirit of the man, you know, wrapped up in all of that beauty and power and music. You know, those things don't normally go together. So that makes him pretty damn unique.
He wanted to make people happy, and he wanted to please the Colonel. He was just acting out of the purity of his spirit and what was bringing him joy. And it taught me so much about music and soul, and it was just a beautiful thing to get to be a part of.